I'm really excited today because I get to speak to an old friend of mine. We worked together on Big Brother. She taught me so much about the way that we communicate without words that I still use today. She is Judi James. Hi.
Hi, Davina. Hi.
Can I just say I'm extremely pleased with you've cracked out an amazing outfit for us today.
Listen, this is what I'm like this every day. Now, can't you? You know, my COVID wardrobe is lacking a little finesse, but never mind.
Can I just show you? Because this all looks very casual, but I have cracked out some like leather joggers.
Cool. They are cool.
Yeah. Like it's all going on in the bottom half.
No, mine's the opposite way around. You do not want to see it.
So I first of all just wanted to say how lovely it is to see you, because it's been a long time, hasn't it? How long has it been? 12 years?
It must be about that, mustn't it? Because, God, it was such fun, wasn't it? You know, but it must be. I was looking at one of the housemates on Big Brother the other day, who probably we analysed after they came. Do you remember their little faces when they used to come out the house and we'd be sitting there like the witches?
I know.
Okay, you're waiting to... And I looked and I thought, oh, you look so much older. So it's probably longer than I thought.
So what we used to do, just to explain to everybody, Judi, we had this amazing program called Big Brother on the Couch, where we would take a load of experts in their field and analyse the housemates inside the house, analyse their behaviour, because for you guys, it was a unique situation to be able to watch people. It's like being David Attenborough, watching animals in the wild. Yeah.
And when they used to come out, it was exactly like Attenborough. Do you remember that thing with the gorillas where he was sitting in amongst them? It had that same feeling of sort of disconnect in a way that, my God, they're real and they've come out. It was like a psychology doll's house, I think, where there'd never been anything like it before. And to just sit and watch 24/7 body language, if you want, was... And I don't think there's been anything since.
We're about to get photobombed by a cat.
I've locked mine away, okay. So I've got 3, so don't worry.
She's over here, it's fine. My YouTube channel is about women 40 plus and about us coming together and learning things and expanding our brains and being irreverent and being naughty and, tackling issues that we come across. I feel like we are more kind of invisible. This is a word that I often hear women of my age use, that women are, they feel sidelined, they feel irrelevant, and they feel invisible.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I suppose, it's not even modern society. I mean, you can get to the point, because we're so youth obsessed. I mean, my grandmother's generation, you got to a certain age, which was probably frighteningly young, and you turned into the matriarch figure, and you had a little perm, and you sat back with your slippers on
and a cardi and sensible food.
And you called the shots, and so you had this kind of alpha vibe going on. But in a society where we are hugely obsessed by youthful looks, and people, I think, are actually, I hate to say it, but I think people are almost repelled by the aging process, as though, oh, it's your fault, you don't have to do that, as though it's something unnecessary. Then there is a tendency, and I'm absolutely all for it, to kind of keep in there as well. There's not going to be any giving up with my generation. There's not going to be a point where I'm going to get that anorak, and mind you,
I feel like we're kicking back against that more than any other generation.
Absolutely. Ever. We absolutely are, and I think that the next generation down are going to inherit an even worse problem, because because of most of how they're seen will be on screen, and they can listen. There's a huge problem starting now, I think, where I've looked, and you've seen this. A lot of celebrities, particularly in America, they're over enhancing their social media photographs to the point.
Oh yes.
How do they go out? Where you don't even live up to what you're posting, and they're in their 20s. And so, there was one the other day, I didn't know who she was, but they kind of only recognised her by her tattoos. That's how they said, this is this person. And then there was this soft focus picture. So I think it's a problem that's going to get worse, but we're forgetting to go into the next stage of where it places in society. And I'm all for clinging on. I'll cling on by my fingernails, you know. I mean, I haven't got children, so I haven't got the kids ridiculing me and saying, how can you wear that?
I'd like to talk to you about what you just said there about the how could you wear that, because I've been thinking a lot about clothing and about being told that you're not allowed to wear something when you're a certain age, or, you know, say the legs, the skin on our legs gets a bit saggier and a bit more wrinkly, but like, so you shouldn't wear shorts. It's like, why not?
Absolutely.
Why shouldn't we show the slightly wrinkly skin? Like it's interesting that society does put a lot of pressure on women to look a certain type of way, but I think that we care less about it. Now, what I was going to ask you about first is, have you got any body language tips on how a woman can make herself appear younger in the way that she uses her body?
Yes, I mean, we certainly, I think we can, without realising it, advance the ageing process. And I think, you know, we go through so many hard knocks in life, and I think that kind of confident, I can do anything, and that kind of goes. And one of the worries is that we then start to wear our tragedies, our upsets, our having been jilted, our split marriages and everything like that. We begin to wear it on our body language if we're not careful. It's called changing your state. It's going back to the state before all of that knocked your confidence, and replicating that in your body language when you could look people, you know, absolutely in the eye, and I think I look great, and standing upright. I mean, it doesn't take much for me to start stooping because I'm tall anyway. I find myself more and more doing what I call apologetic hand gestures, and it's having that.
Well, show me an apologetic hand gesture, because I can't see your hand.
It's a claspy hand that we.
Oh, and that is like a, oh, I'm sorry, like a.
Yeah, you know, I know I'm older than I should be, you know, but I'm, you know, it's that kind
amazing, that, isn't it, that we start doing things like that?
Yeah, I'm not saying everybody does, and sometimes we overcompensate, because I've seen people when they're going on a date and they think, no, I don't want to look like that, so on goes the red lipstick and the, you know, the jewelry and everything like that, and that actually goes further than maybe your inner personality wants it to, so that doesn't help with confidence. But changing your state, there are quite simple tricks. You won't need to do it because you're very fit and you do workouts, but it's pulling up to full height. It's having that long neck again. It's pushing the shoulders down. Don't hold them back. It's just pushing them down because these muscles contract. And the big thing, and I hate to pick out between the sexes, but women do this more than men. It's called self-diminishing, which is where we pull the elbows and the arms into the rib cage, and you know, and then we get the apologetic hands. Now, to look confident, the shoulders need to go down, and we need to get what's called an upturned V under the armpit, just a slight gap, not a big gap, just a slight gap. That is so high. And you look at all the women that, like, I would look at, say, Michelle Obama, who seems to lose confidence. They all have that upturned V under the armpits, and there's the rest of us walking around with our arms stitched to our waist. So it's a slight splaying that not only makes you just look a bit more youthful and a bit more confident, but also it's got an intrapersonal effect, which is it makes you feel more like that as well.
Judi, I have forgotten how much I love you. Honestly, you say things, you think, I just listen to that and I think, all of that makes so much sense.
It's like the other trait that we have, and I see women doing it in the workplace all the time, particularly slightly older women, that legs crossed at the ankles, standing up, legs crossed at the ankles. So you're making yourself wobbly, lacking in confidence. And again, it's like that constant, it's as though your body's apologizing for you being there. And that isn't going to add to that youthful, so what kind of profile that we all had, and we've all got it in there somewhere. It's just that things have happened to make us lose those traits, which is a shame.
And it's not like there's anybody really who is exempt from those things happening to. I mean, all of us go through those things. So if you are carrying burdens of emotional trauma that you've been through, you're not alone. We've all been through things in our lives that weigh us down, but you can, through a few simple physical changes in yourself, change the way you feel about yourself. It's not just about how other people perceive you,
Internal
but
as
standing
well.
with your legs firmly rooted on the floor and not crossed actually makes you feel. Judi, I'm always going on about underwear. Like, other people don't see your underwear, but you know you're wearing
You know what you're wearing, absolutely. Oh my God.
and that will make you kind of hi.
Yeah, absolutely. It's method acting, the actors call it, don't they? You know, they'll do a costume drama and they'll wear antique underwear as well because they want to experience it inside as well as outside. And you're absolutely right. The underwear has got to be. I mean, and that doesn't mean getting the, you know, the whole sexual bit out of all the sort of sexual, but just something that when you put it on, you think that, you know, that looks good. And
It's not about the sexual side of it. It's about how you, again, like you were saying, how you feel about yourself.
Absolutely. And I found what I was doing, as you say, we all do it. I'd got my underwear for best, which I don't think I'm ever going to live long enough to wear my best stuff, actually. They'll find me in my old knickers, run over the road, and I'll have a note on me saying, but I had a best set. Please look in the cupboard. Yeah, why keep this stuff for best?
Yeah.
It's like that as well.
Every day is a best day.
Absolutely.
We touched a little bit on like sexy things. You know, obviously women, as we get older, we go through the change, we go through perimenopause. It does affect libido with a lot of women, or by this point, a lot of women have been in relationships or marriages for 20, 30 years, and the va-va-voom's gone a bit from the relationship. What kind of things can you do that are kind of quite quick and easy remedies to bring a bit of back to the bedroom? I mean, I'm going like, I'm doing this, like, back to the bedroom. That's what we want.
Elvis back into the bedroom.
Bring it back.
You know, we feel guilty when we get bored, or, you know, we think, and often I think we might blame the libido when in actual fact it's just boredom, really.
It's normal, right? When you've been with somebody for that long, it's normal to feel a bit like that.
Yeah, and you've seen every aspect of them, you know, whatever. It's not that they've lost that film star gloss we all have, you know, but no, I think it worries us. And where we go wrong is that we think, oh, I've got to bring it back. So it's like, get the candlelit dinner out, you know, oh my God, I've just come in from work, I'm knackered, and they've got the candles are going. It becomes, and during a date night, it all becomes too quality time. It's not spontaneous. Absolutely. Number one, I mean, we forget, what we don't do is we don't look at one another anymore when we're together for a long time. Yeah. When you go out, face to face, small table, watching everything, reading everything, then we get to know somebody really well. And I'm talking 40 years in my relationship. So, you know, he shaved his beard off and I didn't even notice, Davina. Honestly, I had that moment, you know, when you go to fill up petrol at the garage and he came out and I was sitting in the car and I thought, you've got, your beard's gone. That was like...
How long had he shaved?
Yeah. But you don't, it's a bit like, I don't look in the mirror that much because I know what I look like. And it's the same with somebody, you're living with them. You don't have to have that. But what we then do, we're not tuned into them. We're not reading in their body language, their changes of mood or how their personality's changed over the years or their interests have changed and everything like that. So you're stuck at this sort of stereotype, but then you're not that sexually interested in it anymore. So it's almost going back to the basics and sitting, talking face to face, remembering how to ask one another questions rather than, I mean, can you imagine with lockdown, what did you do today? I know exactly what you did because you were there and I was here, but it's just, how did you feel about, you know, tell me how you feel about. So it's, I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but it's just freshening up the conversations. And the other thing, and I can't recommend it enough, is watching rude films together. I mean, if people think their libido's gone, you know, watch a good film that you find particularly sexy, or it doesn't have to be anything, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be porn. It can be something like Postman Always Rings Twice was very sexy. I seem to remember Jack Nicholson had Jessica Lange on the table in the kitchen. It was extremely sexy.
Well, that's going to get it going again, you see. It's going to stoke up. I mean, what was it I was watching the other night? The Me and My Penis. Did you see that?
No, but that does sound like a porn.
It was art house. It was
art house.
Beautifully photographed. And I sat there by myself, you know, at lunchtime, lockdown, eating my cornflakes. And I thought, this is quite sexy, actually. So you can suddenly feel things whirring again that maybe didn't. So, you know, something like that, or reading. Do you remember when 50 Shades of Grey came out? All women were suddenly on heat. I mean, it's stuff we used to do when we were younger, and we forget to do, and then we think, why do I not feel particularly sexy?
You don't have to have sex every day when you've been together for that long. Just when you do it, make it count, like a connection.
And I think there's always that sad point. I think everybody will remember it in a relationship when you absolutely fancy the pants off somebody. I mean, the day's not long enough, you know, you're at it all the time, smug, boasting about it to everybody else. Oh, we're at it.
Like,
and then there's that first time that one of you sort of says, oh, I've got a headache, or I'm a bit tired, or and unfortunately what can then happen with that is that starts to turn into a habit, and the sort of backing away a bit, and, you know, thinking, because we're always tired.
I think that's what they call the end of the honeymoon period, don't they? The honeymoon period is when, like, it seems that everybody's up for it all the time, and then suddenly the end of the honeymoon period. I mean, a lot of women my age are in a new relationship. Lots of women at 50 seem to get divorced and move into a new relationship. So that's quite an interesting topic to discuss as well, like women dealing with that and all the things that come with that.
And I think surprising themselves, really. I mean, I'm a lot older than you, but, you know, surprising themselves that it was like somebody put a bookmark in how they were back then. Exactly the same. The passion, the naughtiness, the kind of nothing's changed. Even obsessive behaviours, you know, it's all still there. It's just that life in a longer relationship, it doesn't have to, but it's maybe made you think that you've changed, but it's just, you know, real life just puts stuff on hold, doesn't it? We all work such long hours and everything.
So in the workplace, bearing in mind that I said about women feeling invisible after 40, what do you think we can do to assert ourselves more? We talked a bit about the sort of leg crossing and not being apologetic, but I think you talked about hands behind the head, you know, yawning, or like a light, like when you open your mouth and stuff. I mean, I like what you said about eye contact. Eye contact is very powerful.
Yeah, and I think we underuse it. And as I say, it's often because we feel invisible, we actually make that process worse by not looking at people. I mean, you know, I think we've all been out and thought, nobody looked at me today. Well, you were looking at the floor, you know, so how would you see if anybody was looking at you if you pull up and look at people? The greeting rituals are hugely important. That's called the attribution effect. And the way that we walk into a room sets out who we are. And I would never walk into a room at work. I mean, I'm not talking about TV, I work in a lot of companies doing training. And I always walk in like I'm the CEO, you know, without overdoing it. It's just walking in with that, as I say, shoulders down and looking up and looking around the room and eye connecting with people. If you walk in like that, you can then walk out again and they'll go, oh God, is that the new boss? They'll straight away, they'll be programmed to believe that you are somebody important, which you are, and that you're high status as well, but without looking aggressive or arrogant with it. And that's what we need to be careful about. And then when we sit, because so many people spend so much time at meetings, I mean, you know, forget the virtual ones, but those round the table things. And you often see people, they sit back in their chair and they think, you know, I'll say something in a minute, and then the body starts to go like a bit of knitting and you're all knotted up. And then you say something like, I've got a really good way that the company can be saved £30 million a year. And, oh, nobody listened to me, you know, somebody else says it from down the other end of the table. We have to use what are called announcement gestures, which is that If you're going to speak, put your hands on the table, maybe partly raise one hand, lean forward. And when you're not speaking, engage with active listening signals so that you in a way look as though you're joining in, conducting the conversation, responding. So I think sometimes we make ourselves invisible because we forget to move, and we sit back and we think we're biding our time, and I'll get there in a minute. But by the time we do that, nobody knows we're there. When you're in a meeting, there's the magic 3-minute rule, which is that you should always speak within the first 3 minutes, because it puts your voice out in the air. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever done it, but if you sit there for longer and longer, the longer it goes on, the harder it is to say anything. And then you say nothing. So you've got to break the air with your voice within the first 3 minutes. And that I'm in the room and I'm here, and you hear yourself as well.
I feel like some days I can get up and I can think, well, I feel absolutely bloody marvellous. I'm strutting about. When I walk to the shops, I'm smiling to myself. I'm like feeling it. And then other days I wake up and I'm just crushed, and I don't know why. None of my clothes look good. All of the clothes that looked good yesterday look shit today, excuse my language. And I just can't quite kind of nail it. But are these things that you're talking about now, these patterns of behaviour, things that actually could change the way you feel about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, they're quite easy tricks, and it sounds a bit too easy, but when we think about it, I mean, these are traits that they've used for years. For instance, if they've got soldiers marching off to war, they don't march off with their elbows into their ribs and looking scared. They display supreme confidence, and it has an effect. It gets them out there. I've always suffered from certain phobias, and I've worked with people with phobias. And the way that I helped to beat my claustrophobia, because I wouldn't go in lifts for 10 years. And what I was doing, I was going up to lifts and saying, oh, I'm really scared. And, I had friends saying, oh, take a torch with you. And, it just got stupid. And I kept saying, I can't do it. And then I remember thinking, do what you teach people to do and change your state. So I did this kind of what I call the John Wayne walk, and instead of walking into the lift looking scared, I strolled in as though I owned that lift, and I got to the top of Canary Wharf, the tower at Canary Wharf. That was my first lift ride in probably 15 years. I didn't like it, but I did it, and that was a minor miracle. But I could only do it by changing my state. People who are scared of spiders don't actually hurt you in real life, or not in the UK anyway. No. That auto response, spider fear, and those two words and those states are linked together in our subconscious. If we change the dialogue about the spiders, even if you don't believe it, and you say to people, gee, I love spiders, I hope there's a spider, and part of your brain's going, what are you on about? You hate them. But keep it going, keep the dialogue going, even if you don't believe it.
You will believe it in the end.
Couple. Yeah, it's done, and you've already fooled your subconscious to believe that spiders are dangerous, which they're not. So you refool it into believing that actually they're all right. And I said to everybody, I can't wait to go in this lift. I love lifts.
The power of words, Judi. And what I'm hearing from you is the power of words helped you overcome a phobia, which is pretty deep set fear.
Yeah. And body language and confident body language as well.
What it also tells me is that this negative dialogue that women often have towards themselves, and not just women, girls as well. I mean, girls, it's an absolute epidemic with young girls. That you tell yourself this stuff enough, negative thoughts. I'm disgusting. I hate my body. I hate my legs. I'm so fat. I'm so old. I'm so insignificant. Nobody hears me. Nobody sees me. You tell yourself that enough, and you're just convincing yourself you shrink down and down.
Absolutely. And there's no point really, because you're not going to know which is true, so you may as well become the kind of optimistic, I look great and I don't feel old. I mean, does anybody actually inside really feel any older? I mean, I don't think maturity is a myth as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, there's no point in keeping on. I think a lot of why we do it is because we're looking for reassurance from other people. So, if you say, oh, I feel really old today, you're hoping somebody's going to go, you look absolutely like a spring chicken, you look wonderful. But people get really bored by having to have those dialogues all the time, and it's better if you say it to yourself. And you will never be confident if you're looking for approval and affirmation from other people all the time. You know, you've got to think that you look okay. You know, you've got to think, you know.
At one point in my life, I decided to start saying to people that I had body dysmorphia, but in the other way. So when I look in the mirror, I think I see Elle Macpherson. But I'm not at all, but I look in the mirror and I go, yes, smoking hot. Oh, Judi, I've loved talking to you so much. It's really nice to reconnect with you, and I'd love to maybe get you back on at some point. And
I would love that, absolutely love it. It's
been a real eye-opener, and lots of things, lots of take-homes, which I always get from you. You know, you're always in my head, oh, look at that, or I can do this. And the V underneath the arm, definitely using that. But thank you so much, and I'm sending you enormous love, and you look amazing.
So do you, and virtual hugs, Davina.
Virtual hugs.